Hi everyone, you couldn't be up to the sheer neck of the Irish government and their cynical public relations campaigns. Now, this latest one involves emigrants, and the Irish government have gone on a public relations campaign to attempt to attract Irish emigrants back. Now, this is in connection with the construction industry and the massive shortfall we have in terms of workers in construction. Up to 70,000 are estimated to be needed in towards 2030. And of course, we've seen a massive outflow of young Irish workers over the past number of years, particularly to Australia, Canada, and many other countries, because of the abject failings in Irish society around the housing disaster, cost of living disaster, and of course we've seen young people feel helpless and feel like there's no hope in Ireland, and that's why so many are leaving. But at the same time, we have the immigration chaos. Of course, Ireland's a low wage economy, isn't it? But they won't say that when they're talking about these issues, where 1 in 5 workers are in low pay. Now, this latest campaign involves banner drops off skyscrapers around Australia, and they've claimed from the Irish government to say that the workers have built the world, built Sydney, and it's time to build back home. These people are completely out of touch. A cynical, gaslighting public relations campaign among the young workers who have left Ireland because of their policies. And now they're putting this stunt on to try and attract people on to Ireland. But of course, at the same time, what's interesting with this is that this started last year on a big campaign around a number of countries such as Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and England. And they did market research and they inquired about the barriers to people coming back home and why they're leaving in the first place. I don't think they need too much market research on why people are leaving. And of course, what are the barriers they're coming back? Well, maybe the reasons they left in the first place. The housing and homeless disaster, of course the cost of living crisis, and of course lack of basic services. Now, this comes at the same time where we see shows being put on, documentaries being put up on about driving more immigrants into the construction sector. And of course, Micheál Martin spoke at the Construction Industry Federation AGM a couple of weeks ago about demanding that the construction bosses should not be afraid to start attracting more immigrants in. Of course, we have a work permit system, a work visa system. And of course, we've seen, as I said, a massive amount of young people heading away. We've seen apprenticeships being forgotten about for years and years. I know of many people who've come back to Ireland, for instance, maybe to get apprenticeships and are looking at going back to Australia and to Canada and to other countries. Between July 2022 and the end of June 2023, 21,500 work holiday visas were issued for Australia, and they've increased the age limit up to 35 years of age, and this doubled in the previous year, which again shows you how many are leaving Ireland, of course, and politicians are looking to drive them back or attract them back. And it's funny, on their website, Government of Ireland website, it says here's a few ideas for coming back and perhaps finding somewhere to live. And it states, I quote, "You may be able to stay with friends or family initially, or you may be in a position to rent or buy a home immediately." Just let me know your comments on this. Just cannot even comment on this lunacy. They also said about renting. Check all the sites such as Daft, myhome.ie, newspapers. Check shops as well. And check this government schemes such as the help to pay rent through the housing assistance payments, and also the check if you have no accommodation when you come back, the local authorities for emergency accommodation. So come back to Ireland, the land of opportunity according to Heather Humphreys, and check yourself into an emergency accommodation hostel. And of course this is in connection with driving the economy for infrastructure. We see major infrastructural projects being driven by the government at the moment, but it's just driven because of the necessity by big business, not being driven by the necessity of the needs of the citizens of the country for years, left with a decrepit infrastructure and basic lack of facilities. Anybody can attest to that, no matter what part of Ireland you live in. But at the same time, we'll see this nonsense being pushed by the government and absolutely just gaslighting the workers. If you hark back to the time of COVID, when they requested nurses to come back and doctors to help with the health service at that stage, do you remember that story about we had to protect the health service? The health service is supposed to protect the people, isn't it? But we'll digress from that. When they put a big call out for those to come back to Ireland, and many were kept on, probably a handful. And at the same time we see nurses standing on the steps of the Opera House in Sydney with banners saying, give us a reason to come home. So this is the best they can come up with. Absolute nonsense, farcical public relations campaign that's gaslighting Irish workers, and many who have left Ireland because of the cost of living disaster and homeless and housing crisis, the unaffordability of accommodation, and on top of that we see the issues with the immigration chaos in Irish society as well. You really couldn't be up to these people, and I wonder how much money this cost for this PR stunt by dropping banners. But of course this started last year, and it was driven by Simon Harris's department when he was the Minister for Further Education and Innovation. I'm sure there's fantastic innovative ideas coming from that department with Simon Harris when he was involved with them, but of course we know he's under massive pressure presently. So just lunacy. Let me know what you think in the comments about this. It's just a public relations stunt in my view, and it's just absolute nonsense, especially giving them advice to come back to say, well, if you haven't got somewhere to live, check in with your local authority and put yourself into a emergency accommodation. So thanks so much for the support. Please subscribe and take care from Dublin. Slán go fóill.